we called up Brian Eno to see if he knew anybody who could produce us. And he said, well, I definitely agree you could improve, and I think I can do it for you.
He just is full of energy for new ideas and new things, not at all affected by
the weather.
Yeah, or his past achievements.
So when you're working with someone like Brian, who doesn't mention his past achievements, you'd feel silly if he mentioned yours.
What's your best memories about the first days or the early days of the band back in London University?
It was, an incredible learning curve for us, and I remember, when Will joined the band and we decided that we wanted to play some live shows. It was a huge affair organising it, and we used to have to load all of our equipment out from Johnny's bedroom into the back of a taxi and sort of drive them down into Camden where we first started playing, and it was just all of our friends sort of helped out, and it was an amazing adventure really. And it seems so far removed from what we do now, but it's definitely a very special time.
Yeah. Why did you change the name from Starfish to Coldplay? Who idea was it?
Yeah. We think it's one of the worst names of all time, Starfish. But Will had booked us a concert, and that was on a Friday, I believe. And we had to come up with a name to put on a piece of paper to give to all our friends. So we came up with that, and then as soon as we played the concert, we said, we can't be called that anymore. And then our friend gave us the name Coldplay.
Okay, it's a very nice name.
Yes, but we might change back to Starfish.
Yeah. No, Coldplay is okay.
Let's change back now. Let's change back right now.
I jumped across for you. Oh, what a thing to do.
Yellow, it's a really important song. This put you in Glastonbury in 2000. This day or that day, what changed it for you, for the band, for the history of Coldplay?
We've been together 9 years now, releasing music, and there's always these little islands of important days. And certainly that time we played Glastonbury in 2000, if we played really badly, things would have gone very differently, Sometimes there's these very important, well, they seem important to us, events, and 2000 Glastonbury was great, and then 2002 we headlined Glastonbury. That was a really big deal because the next day we'd become like a famous band. It was very strange.
Were you very nervous that day of Glastonbury in 2000? Do you remember like the feelings you had that day?
Always nervous. Glastonbury is a big deal. I think it's the only gig that I really get nervous about, just because it's so steeped in history and so many people there, so many people kind of. It's just such a big deal. It's on all the news channels. It's on everything. It's like
and it's what we grew up with.
It's the biggest gig in Britain, isn't it?
Yes.
Emotional. I mean, your songs are very emotional, or gets people like very feeling the music, and sometimes I know friends that cries with some of your songs. Is that your intention with your music, or it's just that's it?
Yeah. Well, it's funny, people have a strong reaction to our music.
Yes, it is.
Sometimes it's positive and sometimes it's negative, but that's the way it should be. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sense of our lives by making music. That's what music does for us. It's therapy, and
We only really feel like it's any good if we have an emotional connection to it. We think it means something.
As people having an emotional connection with your music, you have an emotional connection with the music of whom?
Who am I going to say what?
The Beatles.
Obviously the Beatles.
There's hundreds. We're not snobbish about music, or we don't really like to say we like this type of music. If anyone anywhere, whether they're famous or not, writes a great song, that's what we have huge respect for that. And
we just came in and listening to some Brazilian music by Antonio Jobim or something like that.
And Jobim.
Exactly.
Jobim, yes.
It was incredible.
It's great.
Yeah, so we listen to so many different things. We love Sigur Rós, we love Beyonce, we love, Shakira, we love, Oasis, Jay-Z, Christy Moore, Kraftwerk, Beatles.
The Scientist is also a very important song in Latin America. We really like the video, we like the song. When did you came up with this song? Who wrote it? When did you start with it? Who inspired you to write that song, The Scientist?
It's a good question.
I remember when you wrote that song. Actually, it was in that.
Parr Street.
It was in Parr Street Studios in Liverpool.
It was just George Harrison had just died like 2 weeks before, and there's a song that he has called "Isn't It a Pity?" Because isn't it a pity? Isn't it a shame how we cause each other harm? And I thought, this is a great song. We need to have a song like that where it just has this circle of chords. And so I sat down at the piano, and this whole song just came out in 3 minutes. The whole of The Scientist. And then the next day, Will and Guy wrote their bits. And so then it almost became a finished Coldplay song. And then Johnny, because he's a little bit lazy, he took 2 days.
All the inventors could never design the buildings that you put up, but Japan and China only
I heard and I read somewhere that you wrote a message, the song A Message naked. Why did you write it naked? And is it true?
I do a lot of things naked.
Yeah, what kind of things do you do naked?
Shopping,
Okay.
water skiing,
Volleyball.
volleyball.
It's good.
You like to do volleyball naked.
Yeah, ping pong.
You like to play ping pong naked.
But did you write
I go
other
skiing.
songs naked?
I can't remember any song that I wrote with clothes.
And why?
I don't know.
You don't know. There's just the inspiration. It comes better naked.
It's not that inspiring. But what is the answer to that question? That's a very funny question. The truth is, I don't know what the truth is.
Oh. Okay.
Sometimes, you've got to take your clothes off.
Of course, there were some bands that look at you and said, "Oh, Coldplay is going to be a promise of the music." Can you say something like that about another band right now that is starting?
Oh, right, yeah. I think the Arctic Monkeys will probably be around for a good while. Who else?
Empire Weekend.
Just a band.
Or a singer, doesn't matter.
Well, I think Amy Winehouse is, timeless classic because she's really a special superstar.
Do you find it interesting, this evolution that the rock and roll has, like from the 80s and the 90s, that it was like sex, rock, and rock and roll and drugs, and now that the bands, we see they're like really pro-social and they're working on the free market like you and on environmental things?
Well, here's the thing, rock and roll, the spirit of rock and roll is born from a place of, wanting to revolutionize and go against the normal. And so in the 50s and 60s, that meant rebelling against, middle-aged generation of, pipe smoking and, your wife cooks the dinner and, it's all very old-fashioned. And so rock and roll then was about going out and smoking pot and sleeping with people and wearing leather pants and, but now it's 2008 and behaving like that is, for a band like us, that just seems very cliched. It doesn't seem like really the spirit of rock and roll, which is about independence and individual thinking. So I think that's why bands now are like we say they are, because we're just trying to be individual and say what we believe in.
When did you begin to be involved with the social part, and why?
I think we decided at some stage that Well, we realised that we bizarrely had some kind of influence, not an influence, but we had a pedestal from which to speak from which people might listen, and we decided that we would try and do something useful with that rather than using it to make ourselves more money or whatever. So, you know, we wanted to use our music to advertise things that we believed in and things that we thought might be beneficial to other people.
We really tend to support Oxfam, this organisation from England. They tend to know more about what's important, and we are always happy to associate with it. We don't pretend to have any greater knowledge, you know. We would just rather talk about, you know, climate change or fair trade or whatever. We would rather talk about that than advertise, you know, sneakers or something.
But you're interested in Latin America too. You like to get to Latin people and let them know too.
Well, everyone. It affects the world, definitely. Especially the fair trade stuff is important for everyone, absolutely.
When you write the songs, do you try to give a message, like a political message?
It's quite hard to write a really great political song because I think you have to really know what you're talking about, and B, it's very hard to talk about things like that without sounding like you're preaching to someone, I think. So we always tend to write and play songs that are about things that we know about and therefore are more convincing, and then we use the influence, the platform that those songs give us to then talk about stuff.
There is a message of independence, though. That you've got to follow your dream and you've got to follow your path, and you shouldn't be distracted by people trying to brainwash you.
And what's your dream, guys, then?
This is it.
Coldplay is your dream.
No, this interview.
Right.
And what's the thing you like the most about being together all this time?
Just being able to talk to people. I think it must be very hard for solo artists in a position where if they become very successful, they don't really have people to share things with, because they have people who they surround themselves with who will tell them what they want to hear, and there's no one. We're lucky because if someone is feeling down, you know, the rest of us, we all understand, and we all say, look, you know, we're all in it together, and we help each other, we support each other, and it's fairly, you know, it's priceless. It's the thing that's kept us together and where we are now.
I think that we all appreciate that we wouldn't have our families and shoes or whatever without having our band. You know, most of us wouldn't have girlfriends unless we were in a band. So I think all of us feel like we're part of something that's magical, you know? I don't think any of us on our own would be that good, but for some reason we have this great thing that's greater than the sum of its parts, and so I don't think any of us want to let that go.